Hello, welcome back to Out on That Line podcast. We are going to do another review for you today. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex as always. Alex, how you doing this week?
Oh, we've got a review for you. Yes, we do. We certainly do. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited for this one. It's another friend of the show who has not released an album in like 6 years. This is one of the like early ones that we did in the lore of the show. So I'm excited to welcome back this friend of ours. Jeff, why don't you tell the people at home what they've won?
We are going to be talking about Thundercat, of course. And we're not talking about the cartoon from the 80s. We're talking about the artist, the man of the tasty bass lines, Thundercat himself.
Let's dig our little kitty claws right in.
So we did the first Thundercat album called I believe it is what it is, right? Was the name of that one? I think was the name of that album.
Yes, yep, that was the one we did.
So
in 2020.
That one was for me like I'd never really listened to anything kind of like that before. It was excellent. Like it was a Dragon Ball Do-Rag. Like what a fantastic song. Party with You. Like there was a lot of like really fun, awesome, bouncy, upbeat songs on that one. And this album, Distracted, I think carried a lot of the same sounds through it. But I will start out by saying this did not feel nearly as like revolutionary to me as that first one did. I don't know how you felt about it.
Interesting, because I guess if you want to like look at Thundercat and Revolutionary, you got to go back to like 2011, 2013. I can't remember which one came out, if it was like Apocalypse Gold or Apocalypse, which one came out first. That was really like the revelatory Thundercat coming out. I love Drunk. If I had to only give you one reason, it's because Show You the Way features Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald. I was just getting into yacht rock at that point. So I remember I was sitting in the sauna at the gym and that song came on and I heard it for the first time and I heard Michael McDonald and I shot up. I did the Undertaker setup and went, no fucking way, to no one in particular. So I'm very enthusiastic about Drunk. Great album. It is what it is. I loved, and again, like you said, Dragon Ball Do-Rag. I love Lewis Cole. There were a lot of like very upbeat, and like obviously for Thundercat, particularly bass driven, like a lot of creative stuff on like him using the bass as a primary instrument instead of like the rhythm section or a rhythm instrument. In much in the same way as like Primus. It was really creative. It was set against these like really wonderful like synth soundscapes and a lot of funk and like psychedelic. And it's all kind of occupied. When you say like it's traveled a straight line, that could be a slam if it wasn't, I think, song to song so inventive. So it's not a radical reinvention of Thundercat's song or conventions, but it is the kind of thing where every song is just enough different within that Thundercat genre to keep you coming back for more. So to me, this album was, as weird as it sounds, more of the same. I would say more polished, but didn't lose the sense of fun and the lightness, even when talking about like heavier thematic stuff. But no, this one to me, it didn't break the mold, but it was like just as satisfying.
And I think that's really where I think the difference between this one and It Is What It Is was for me, is like kind of the lyrical content and the storytelling. Because on It Is What It Is, you have Dragon Ball Do-Rag. He's talking about cat hair on his clothes, and it the very much like a very light-hearted way to look at things. Obviously, there was some delving into some emotional things like that, but it was really, I would almost call it like a dance record. There was a lot of songs where it's like you throw those on at a party and you're golden. Like they were really that good. And I felt like on this album, the songs where he had guests on the song, like the Tame Impala song, which is completely blown up, the one with Lil Yachty, the one that he has Mac Miller, lyrics on it with it, like all those songs, like even the one with the lemon twigs, and you know how I feel about the lemon twigs. Even that song was great.
You know how
You know,
I feel about the lemon twigs.
yeah, and I think where the weakest parts of the album, funny enough, were the ones where it was just him for me. And not that it was bad, it just, as like revolutionary as it is what it is felt for me, because I never really listened to things like that before. Because this was, like you said, kind of a straight line through, I enjoyed that he got deeper into, some really heavy topics. But I also felt like he could have gone further in explaining those emotions. I think some of the issue I found was on those songs. It just felt so like ethereal that there was nothing that like real to grab onto. And if it didn't seem like it was any lack of effort or was lack of quality or anything like that, it's just that's clearly how he wanted to do it, and those particular things just didn't like land as well with me. For if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think for me, even though it's like a little hipstery hippy dippy, but for an album called Distracted, those digressions didn't bother me that much, because to me they felt like the embodiment of the whole spirit of the thing. So it's not that he doesn't get into like, grief, anxiety, and like stuff like that, but it's with a characteristic Thundercat light touch. And as a guy who's worked with Kendrick Lamar, it's like night and day in their solo stuff and their approach to similar topics. But I also agree with the sentiment that I think the ones that had features on them were the most fun, because it was just like parade of stars. Like in the past, he's worked with like Kamasi Washington, you have Flying Lotus on this, Lil Yachty, Mac Miller, ASAP Rocky, Lemon Twig, Haley Joel Osment is on Anakin Learns His Fate on this. And it's just the weird, quirky Thundercat stuff. Like, yeah, Dragon Ball do-rag. Like, I'm wearing a Dragon Ball themed do-rag. Do you like it? Ignore the cat hair all over me.
Yeah.
Or like Friend Zone from Drunk, where he's talking about like, I want to love like Johnny Cage, and like hit me up or don't. I'm going to play Diablo. I'm just going to go play Diablo. And it's just this like fun, weird anime nerd characteristic Thundercat lightness and goofiness, but not goofiness at the expense of the song. It's more of a creativity and a playfulness that, like, I guess goofy you could kind of associate with like more of a Zappa type thing, where poopy fart gaga piss, which is not Thundercat's thing. It's just he's quirky and he's honest about the quirks. And so that not only takes place lyrically, but I think musically as well. He's trying a lot of different like kind of funky stuff on the bass. He's trying a little more of the like soulful, quiet storm, dare I say, yacht rock stuff with the lemon twigs. What is left to say when you've made up your mind? Oh, it's so fucking smooth. It's so unbelievably smooth. And I love that he can toggle between smooth grooves and then just crazy like
on Candlelight on the opening track. I mean, so when that hit, that was like, I was like, oh, we're gonna get him just like bass virtuoso on this album. And then that was kind of the last hit of that you got basically for the whole album. A lot of it, the bass was excellent. There were obviously like very inventive bass lines, but the way that he was just ripping the bass on that first song, I was hoping I was going to get a lot more of that throughout the album. And a lot of it ended up sounding very much like more like Tame Impala songs, which I like Tame Impala, so I didn't mind listening to it, but I felt like, something of the music needed to have more of an edge, maybe some more inventiveness to it, or the lyrics needed to have, a little bit more explanation, really like rip that heart open a little more and like really tell me how you're feeling. Cause I felt like there was a lot of like, not half stepping or anything like, nothing that I was never upset by any part of it. I just was like, I know what he's capable of doing. And I wish in those moments where maybe the lyrical content wasn't hitting the way it should, maybe the music should have been maybe more complicated or more like bass forward or just more virtuistic. I don't know necessarily how to explain kind of what I was looking for out of it. I just feel like outside of a lot of the songs where he had somebody else on there, so there was a little bit of a different flavor, brought into it. Even like the Lemon Twig song, I'm like, I don't even like yacht rock, and I still felt like that song was excellent, and or something interesting like Anakin learns his fate. It's like that's. I felt like I just wanted Thundercat to just maybe be a little weirder on this one, if that makes sense.
That's a fair point. It didn't get like as weird as it historically has or could. But I really, once I keyed in on the direction we were going, I kind of, weirdly enough, for us mentioning Trout Mask Replica a couple times, approached it in a similar way, which is with the like kind of the feature fest and especially with the ballads, you're kind of like, ooh, I want to hear what Lil Yachty's gonna do. Oh, this is so interesting. This like posthumous collaboration with Mac Miller, and
Which was excellent. That was probably
excellent.
Probably my favorite track on the album.
Great song. But when you're not like anticipating those like and special guest kind of moments, I was kind of trying to zero in on stuff he was doing with the bass, because he's just like known for all of these like super unique conventions. Like he'll sneak a slide in there, he'll sneak a little ghost note. He plays a 6-string, so it's like he's able to play, and he plays like way up high, so he's able to get like lead guitar like effects with it. And I just really appreciate kind of the weirdness of that. It's the same thing as like Les Claypool. Les Claypool's a little more like, certainly very talented, but like a lot more heavy-handed with it. And like in more of a like classical sense, and Thundercat's all over the fucking place.
Thundercat, I feel like is more like jazz. I get like Les Claypool would be more like, you could say classical in the kind of the scales he uses. Probably how he attacks the bass is a lot more like punk rock to me, and kind of like how he really just hammers that thing. I think with Thundercat, and especially, and like, again, I'm not even that big of a jazz fan. Like I just, if somebody's talented, I'll listen to it. And that, like, so Candlelight I hear, and it's got, I mean, just wild bass lines throughout that song. And I was like, okay, and then you go right into, let me make sure I have the order right. So then you go right into the Tame Impala song. It's like that one you immediately know is Tame Impala. Like that is unmistakable how much that guy sounds like himself in every single thing that he does.
Kevin Parker, baby.
Yeah, and then you go Mac Miller. The Little Yachty song was excellent. ASAP Rocky was like almost like a kind of a straightforward hip hop song. And I've never really listened to ASAP Rocky, but I really liked how he sounded. I really liked the lyrical content. And then you go into the Lemon Twigs. I like that song a lot. Even the song with Willow, I thought was excellent. And it's like, so there were definitely some really bright moments on this album, but where it really kind of lost me was like Pozzole. I wasn't really a huge fan of. ADD Through the Roof. I was like, man, that's some great lyrics. And then he just said ADD Through the Roof a million times. And I'm like, could we have done some, like, maybe because I know how creative he can be, that something like that, maybe that's the point, is the ADD Through the Roof, is he's finally like focused on one thing. Maybe that was kind of the thing he was like making a little tongue-in-cheek remark about. But I felt like there was some letdown moments on it where it just kind of sounded the same as other things and not distinctive enough for me to like get that excited about, especially that kind of last part of the album.
I think it's fair. That's a fair criticism of the end of the album. I think the album, I'm not opposed to a long album or a long listening experience, especially if it's enjoyable.
This wasn't even that bad. It was 46 minutes. Wasn't even all that long, really.
No, it's 46 minutes, but at a certain point, I did become kind of aware of how long I'd been listening to it. So you could have cut ADD Through the Roof and Pozzole. No disrespect to the Lemon Twigs, but you could have trimmed 2 or 3 songs off of this, and maybe it would have been a little more streamlined and a little more impactful. But for me, again, it all kind of comes out of like that bass technique, and the fact that, again, playing a 6-string, he can go from like funk to soulful to rock in an instant. It just opens up what he can do. And, virtuoso is the right word. And treating it like a melodic lead instrument, it's a way more creative jumping off point for every other element, for
Mhm.
whatever you're going to do for a beat, for drums, whatever you're going to do with guitar or synth or however you're going to sing it. The like kind of like jazz space that he occupies, infused with pop and space age synth and Japanese acid jazz and like
Mhm.
all these different like kitchen sink elements that don't feel like they should work. He finds a way to knit them all together where they're not really like drawing attention to themselves. He makes these like songs that are way more cohesive than they have any right to be. And he would have been just fine doing like a rock oriented outfit where he's the leader with the bass as a lead instrument, and it would have been great. But then on top of it, there are all these creative flourishes with the guests, what the guests bring to the table, what he's making the other instruments doing. His vocal delivery is such a huge part of his lyrics, like the playfulness, breathy kind of thing. It's like so key to the Thundercat sound. He really has like created a signature sound and a signature like niche to occupy. And in our eternal quest to like figure out our own taste profiles here and explore new music, I've said before, there are certain people I criticize them because they don't reinvent and they don't try something new. Or I criticize people because I'm like, you tried something new and it was way out of your element.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work and it didn't come together. There's something to be said for Thundercat stepping in and saying, I've created a lane and there's so much diversity within this lane. And I've had so much success with it and I connect with it in such a specific way because look how wide pop is. Look how wide jazz is and all the things you can do in between. And so for me, it was my biggest criticism was it got a little long in the tooth by the end, but I was perfectly pleased lyrically, musically, with my experience. It was more of the same from Thundercat, which for me is always going to deliver.
Mhm. And I think so, real credit to him is, we've mentioned the word virtuoso a few times. Like, how many people in the kind of, really more like general kind of like pop space that people are aware of? Because it's like almost people may not know who Thundercat specifically is, but I would almost guarantee you everybody's heard a song that he's played on. So it's like there's like he is, I think, has a very broad range of appeal for a lot of people, whether they're really aware of like him specifically or not. Like he's been involved in a lot of things. Like a lot of people that are Mac Miller fans may not really realize how involved he was in Mac Miller's career. A lot of people may not realize, if they're Tame Impala fans, like, they might hear that song as a Tame Impala song, not really realizing that it's on there with Thundercat. So like I feel like he's entered into the general like pop consciousness like very well compared to other people that you'd consider virtuosos. Like how many people do you think know who Les Claypool is? Like probably just people that are Les Claypool fans and that's it. Or have played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yeah, if you
You
give a
know,
shit about Primus in today's day and
how many
age.
people know who Victor Wooten is or Steve Vai or Joe Satriani? It's like only if you really are, a guitar player or you really care about the bass guitar, are you going to really know who those people are? Very rarely does somebody that is a virtuoso level at their instrument break into that real like pop sphere. Maybe you have some piano players now and again, but you have, someone like John Mayer. I guess you make an argument for that. Thundercat, you make an argument for that, but like how many folks are like that virtuistic on their instrument and also get into the pop consciousness like that? Like it's a pretty rare thing. So just for that fact alone, like Thundercat has been way more successful than I think anybody had any right to be as a like virtuosic musician.
And that's such an interesting point is like what artists, especially today, are synonymous with their instrument in an interesting way, like in a very, very distinctive way. So, like, again, like you ran through all these bass players and like who today is picking up Jaco Pastorius, the work of Jaco Pastorius, but I'm trying to think of like the only person that comes to mind is Joanna Newsom and her harp. Like,
Mhm.
it's not a gimmick, but who is really synonymous? Billy Joel and his piano,
Yeah. Jimmy Page and
who
his guitar. It's like there really aren't, like, think about like the 70s. You had like you had Jimmy Page, you had Joe Perry, you had the fucking Beatles, like you had like Paul McCartney on his bass. Like you had so many people that were like so iconic and associated with that instrument, like fucking Kenny Kenny G with his saxophone. You know what I mean? Like there used to be a lot more space for that kind of thing, and there just doesn't seem to be anymore. There's people that obviously play guitar, but like, how much do people know that Ed Sheeran is a like extremely high level guitar player versus like that they just like his pop music? Like, is he known as a guitar player? Or is he known as a like pop star?
see, and that's another interesting thing. And we're like way off Thundercat, but Ed Sheeran as a guitarist, as a part of a group where he is not the lead singer and he's not like the main focal point, that would be something. He's a very, very talented guitar player. Unfortunately, his music is dog dick fucking boring.
Yeah.
And just sappy and insipid and terrible. But hey, you know whose music isn't like that? Thundercat. His
Yeah.
music's fucking great. But yeah, I mean, it's the way that he's kind of like, and whether or not people who are listening to it really consciously think about it, their brain is aware of it. The fact that he's doing for bass what he's doing for bass, and just kind of like he can collaborate with hip hop artists, he can collaborate with these like twee British revival artists like Lemon Twigs, he can collaborate with elderly yacht rock
Mhm.
luminaries. Like he's such a like, I'm looking at a list of people that he's worked with. Some of them are like Flying Lotus is where he cut his teeth, so that's not surprising. But Gambino, Mac Miller, Earl Sweatshirt, George Clinton, Anderson Paak, Moses Sumney, Snoop Dogg, Kanye, Haim, Silk Sonic, Kaytranada, Justice. It just keeps going.
Mhm.
Like he's on These Walls. You talk about like, if anybody is familiar with, he might be in your favorite song. He's on These Walls, which is like Kendrick Lamar epic. First Kendrick Lamar I dialed into, like specifically seeking it out. The music video, by the way, fucking absolutely amazing. We knew here. Your Jerry curl's still fresh. Fucking so awesome. And that kind of like fun and creativity in that subset of hip hop and the music world, and just like actual creatives who get together and work together and like share notes and inspire each other. That is the most gratifying thing. And Thundercat is one of those, interesting on his own, but also as the straw that stirs the drink. You get him to feature on anything, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
I think for me, this album, I'm gonna, again, just because it got a little saggy towards the end, I'm gonna go 9.5 out of 10. I love
Okay.
this album.
Yeah. So still a very strong score. So Thundercat as a bass player, as an artist, is a 10 out of 10 for me. This album gets a 7 out of 10 from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stiff but fair.
Yeah. And I think it's for me, I think it's just simply there was enough misses on there that it kind of like docked those points, and it didn't sound like that you had the same issue with those. And that's the facts of life, man. Take the good, you take the bad.
Put them both together. Get the facts of life.
Yeah.
Hey, I can dig it.
Where else can people find some facts of life that we've imparted?
Which is so funny because there's that band Lime Cordial. They have a song, "These Are the Facts of Life." And we covered that album last year or the year before. I can't quite remember, but we did it at one point. It's a band you've probably never heard of. So that actually bodes well for everyone involved, for the band, because they get some exposure, for us, because you will have to watch the video, and for you, because we'll entertain and teach you. That's a real win-win. And then you find a new band that you like. Folks, this could not be more of a slam dunkaroonie. if I drew it up in my dreams. And all you have to do is go to youtube.com/C/out on that line. Get in there, get in the mix, subscribe today, click the bell so you get notifications when we put out new videos. Hit the thumbs up to like the video. That's very important. There's also a hype feature now. So if you're watching on your phone, swipe left on the comments. It'll allow you to hype the video. That's a cool new thing I didn't realize they were doing until very recently. Why not? Help us out. One of the most helpful things you can do is leave a comment. Tell us albums we should cover. Tell us your thoughts. We have a very communicative comment section going these days, and I appreciate it. And I speak for Jeff confidently when I say he appreciates it too. It's great. Everything's going great at the channel. We don't want you guys to worry. What we want you to do is participate. Get in the mix. Hand your keys and your jacket to your friend and jump in the pit and get kicked in the head until you're seeing stars at youtube.com/C/out on that line. And now also on Spotify. So figure that.
If you can ever get your Spotify to update on your computer, like I can't. Well, folks, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next time.